What's up, Starcraft fans? Today we're doing the tier list for Firewall on Mal Warfare. Brian, let's hear the mutation.
Mal Warfare is the map where we have to escort Orana's transport as it purifies security terminals from a rogue AI. We win the game if she purifies all 5 terminals, but we lose if the enemies or suppression towers destroy the transport. Mines are deployed all around the map. They each deal 250 splash damage and must be destroyed. Enemies, including the mines, gain 100 shield upon taking damage. Lava erupts all around the map near your guys.
We have Edwin and Joni in the call with us today. How are you guys?
Doing pretty well.
Ahoy. Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Alright, so, Joni, how do we rank the commanders this week?
Right, so it's sort of a deceptively tricky mutator this week, actually. Minesweeper and Barrier have a significant synergy. And then, so the reality to it this week is that you are really having to deal with the mutators head on and up front. You cannot afford to be passive this week. Highly mobile, small army or hero, detection obviously being a really big one for Minesweeper, and then high damage output commanders are going to score better.
What do you think, Edwin?
Yeah, this is already a map that sort of demands you be pretty aggressive about clearing while defending the objective, because there are some significant bases and a lot of area you need to clear before Arana gets there, and it's made all the worse by clearing being harder and also getting punished way harder if you don't clear ahead, because mines can hit Arana and deal some pretty significant damage to her. So if you're not clearing ahead in time, she's going to be already in a much weaker state. So it's a tricky one.
Alarak has one of the standard Alarak problems, which is a detection problem, simply in the sense that his detection's not great. It's effective in the sense that it works, but it's really not brilliant. With that being said, he does on paper tick a lot of the boxes. He does serious amounts of damage. The sort of glass cannon that is Alarak and his army in particular can be problematic for all of the obvious reasons, lava burst in particular. But with him, you are at least not really having to split your attention massively. His war prisms overcharged when they are stuck directly over the nodes can get an awful lot of work done as well, actually, on this mutator. So he's not the easiest. He's extremely unforgiving, but he does have sort of mechanisms to get things done. I had him in C tier.
What do you think about C tier, Edwin?
Yeah, I think big emphasis on the mechanisms to get things done. I was thinking like an Artificer of Souls potentially here. You have Wrathwalkers to kind of snipe off the mines from a range. There, you get relatively power dense because you're powering up just a few of those at a time, so you don't have too large of an army, and you have a pretty punchy army at that. You just have to be really careful that your supplicants don't walk into range of a Widow Mine. His detection is cloaked, which is handy, but if a Widow Mine goes off within an 8-mile radius of a Havoc, it will die anyways. So, you got to keep that in mind. Don't let anything else get aggroed by them as well. Yeah, I think he'll do fine here. So I had him in C tier as well.
All right, unanimous C tier. That's where Alarak goes. Prestige-wise, you want first one?
I think Artificer of Souls might be good here. There's always P3, but I'm like, I don't know. I think the super powered Wrathwalkers will actually do quite well against the mines and stuff. They pretty much one-shot them, right? So there's no barrier. I think they one-shot them. No barrier, and then they have super attack speed, so you can just clear a whole pack of mines and just hold position from a nice safe distance with your Havocs.
The mines don't get barrier.
I can totally see that.
The mines don't get
the mines
barrier.
100% get barrier.
Yeah, if you don't one-shot them. If you one-shot them, then there's no barrier.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying they one-shot them, so barrier won't be an issue. Yeah.
That being said, how do you use Alarak, the hero?
The hero himself?
Yes.
You don't particularly. I think you can use him to help defend and clear the enemies once the mines are cleared. So once you're actually defending an area that's been cleared out, he'll be more useful. But I always have Alarak on a separate hotkey control group from everyone else. So I would just play as I normally do. I just wouldn't really put him in the front until later.
Even I do that.
Even he does that, CTG. What's your excuse? I don't know. I'm assuming you have to.
Even I do that. I'm rubbish at the game.
I wasn't listening. What I did is, sorry, I'm listening for to delete. Anyway, what I was doing with Alarak is just having him sort of be at the transport when the rest of my army is out clearing, so that he can just be the Twister mutator for Amon. It doesn't deal a lot of damage, but hey, it delays it while the overcharge keeps shooting at the enemy. Anyway, C tier for Alarak. Prestige-wise, first one. Moving on, Arcturus. Where do we have him?
Arcturus is a tricky one because his initial early game kind of sucks against mines, because if one of your troopers gets just a little bit too close to the mines, then you lose 40 troopers at once, and it feels pretty bad. In theory, you have things like Earth Splitters in your main base that can clear most of the map, or your natural base as well. They can get most of the map cleared, so if you get a few of those up, start kind of pre-clearing with those. That'll help with like third set and getting over to the fourth set, not necessarily clearing or fifth, I guess I should say, fourth and fifth. You won't actually be able to reach all the way to the fifth, and because of lava bursts, you can't really build out on the map. But then if you get out some like Aegis guards, things like that, I think they'll actually do pretty well. You have the blimp has a pretty good detection range, especially if you siege it up. Just try to siege it up over airspace if you can, so you're not getting lava bursted. And Aegis guard will do pretty well, I think. I think you still want to go P3 because you want the initial early game power spike, and P2 is just, not that good. But I do think you want to go pretty heavily into your Royal Guard here. And if you do that, I think he won't be too bad. So I had him in B tier.
B tier. What do you think, Joni?
Yeah, I had a really tough time with him, which I think speaks more about my ability than really anything else. But I was exactly the same sort of tactics as ET. I ended up using Emperor's Hands rather than Aegis Guard, purely because they've got the sort of mini nuke thingy that they do that does some area damage and can take out clumps of mines in a wanna. But I just found it really stop and start. I was playing P1 because I wanted to use Contaminated Strike to sort of basically try to get me out of trouble with enemy waves, etc., as in, just to break them up as and when I needed to. I don't feel on this map with these mutators that sort of exploding troopers are particularly useful, and I also don't think it's a map where you necessarily need to use nuclear annihilation. So I was playing P1, but yeah, I sort of similarly struggled. I had him in C tier, but I'm sort of happy to move him around slightly. I'm conscious that I probably didn't play particularly optimally with him.
Oh, so we're okay with B, right? I just want to ask, what do you mean by Emperor's Hands?
His ghosts.
Aren't they called Emperor's Shadows?
Half of the missions being named after like places in Colorado and things like that,
Well, I never watched the Star Wars, so I really don't understand.
I don't think they're even mentioned
It's all
in
going
Star
right over
Wars.
my head.
They're like books only.
It's a reference from one of the books. But
Yeah.
no, in my defense, I think it's also the first time that I've actually built a unit since first leveling up Manx as a commander. Like they are very limited in their utility.
We can forgive you for that. Sure. Anyway, so both of you had him in B tier. Let's put Arcturus in B tier. Prestige-wise, you want first one here?
I would say third, honestly.
So third one.
Because the gun nukes are,
Cheaper.
for the early game. Because the early game is like where it's really,
That's true.
really difficult as Minsk. So you want that pick me up, basically.
Moving on, Artanis. Where do we have him?
I had Artanis on the struggle bus this week. He was one of the cool kids sat at the back of the struggle bus. The chief difficulty you have is that realistically your units that can deal with this, I'm not going to count Reavers really, because they're just not. I'm if someone else wants to talk about them, they can, but I'm not going to build Reavers. Realistically, his units that are going to deal with Minesweeper are Tempests or Dragoons. Tempests are sort of overwhelmingly slow. They basically overkill everything else. So I ended up, in my head, sort of being funneled straight into Dragoons, which means that you end up effectively having to shuffle a vast clump of stuff around a map with lava burst on it. Going up ramps was an absolute pain fest, despite the fact you've got observers sort of showing you what's going on. Yeah, it was just a really, really painful experience. Playing P3 alleviated the misery to a certain extent, because dropping space archons in at strategic spacing allows you to do some tactical mine clearance with them. But yeah, on the whole, from my point of view, this was just absolute pain. I had him in D tier, but I could happily be convinced to have him lower.
What do you think about D tier at home?
Well, I had him higher than that, and then I heard you talk about the Dehaka Burger's performance, and I was like, maybe I should have had him higher. And now I'm hearing Johnny, and I'm like, I don't know what to think anymore. So, I think the early game detection in Dragoons is good. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sure this will go over well with the commenters. Oh, I haven't actually played this commander. I'm sure that'll go very well. Oh my god.
Well, it's like, I think the Dragoons are good. You do not want to mass them necessarily.
I think the reason why
20 Dragoons.
I think the reason why Joni and Dehaka Burger had different experiences with Artanis is because for Joni, I'm not sure if he had an ally or not, but perhaps the lava bursts were very concentrated to where his army was. Whereas Dehaka Burger's experience, he not only had me trying to clear out stuff back home, so I had an army there, but also, as I mentioned before, I did have overlords at the bonus area and at the U-turn from the fourth base. I was already spreading out the lava bursts, which meant he had more freedom to move about. Yes, there's still lava, but I'm imagining that because I didn't see his point of view, but I imagine that it's not as dense as what Joni experienced when he played Artanis. It's just theory crap.
Yeah, and in theory, you can do the same thing you did with overlords with observers, right? So
exactly.
You could be spreading out. So,
yeah,
obviously do that for anyone watching. And I mean, in theory, after you clear the second Arana, the first one outside of the base, you could throw some observers up on the airspace, like on each side of that, right? And so you can really start spreading out the lava bursts even more. But that said, I don't think he's bad this week. I think you have to be careful about over making army all at once. You got to do a lot of like warping in just a few zealots to help clear. They die, and then you have your like pack of 10 to 20 dragoons, and try not to go above that count, because with his gateways you can have like 30 warp charges stacked up pretty easily, right? So you can always replace that army. But if you overbuild, then you just lose them, and then you can't rewarp them in. Especially because he has the speed mastery for the Dragoons and stuff. So you want to be making use of that as much as possible. So that's something I have been working on doing better with Artanis, is not just like, I'm just one of those spend my money the instant I have it kind of things. And it's like, well, sometimes it's worth it to let the charges build up so you can warp in 20 Dragoons all at once when there's actually something to fight with them and they have these massive buffs from the mastery. So anyways, I had him in B tier, but I'm very happy with C tier, I think.
Okay, so Joni has C tier?
I'm perfectly happy to go into C tier. I think CTG, your analysis of my playthrough is spot on. I was testing it on the solo map, and yeah, it was, you literally couldn't take your eyes off your main army because they were getting just completely blasted.
Barbecued. So, yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that does put Artanis in C tier. I think that's one of the underrated things is you have someone just spreading out the lava for you, so you don't have to deal with everything all at the same time. So, moving on, Dehaka, where do you have him?
Almost makes up for them dragging Widowmine shots into your army. Anyways, Dehaka he's another guy where it's the startup, right? Dehaka has no good detection for the first 5 minutes of the game, basically, because you have to get out Glevig's Den, which is your primal or your main production building, and then another building on top of that, which takes like a minute plus to build, and then your cooldown starts to be able to actually start summoning greater primal worms, and then the regular primal worms are expensive as all get out. So until you get to level 5 Dehaka, you don't really have good detection. And on this map with these mutators, you can't get to level 5 Dehaka until you have detection. Yes. So it's sort of a death loop for Dehaka here. Once you have the pack leaders mixed with greater primal worms, once you get out Glevig, you're going to be able to do a lot of work very quickly. So that made it, it's a little more questionable. I think that probably makes him better than Abathur by just a little bit. So I had him in C tier here.
What do you think about C tier, Joni?
Ooh, I'm of a slightly different opinion. Not, to be fair, that the early game is not really, really tough. But I was very much of the view that with Dehaka sort of as is, yes, the first 4 or 5 minutes is a bit of a struggle, but there's also limited necessity to actually do very much during that period. By which point, even if you only crack out a couple of worms in the first instance, as soon as your pack leaders come online, you are living the dream. My suggestion at that point would be to look to build an army of Mutalisks, purely for the mobility. Creeper hosts lacking utility this week for all of the obvious reasons, but a Mutalisk hit squad to defend stuff, and then dropping greater primal worms for detection and pack leaders just to sort of combo clear and just tank everything in the face because they can is pretty effective actually. So I sort of rated Dehaka quite high actually, purely because once you get out of that admittedly highly problematic early game, he is sort of rampaging. So I had him in A tier. I will exceed the point that that early game is rough, but if your ally's doing really anything at all, then you should be okay.
Depends if your ally is Dehaka or Abathur, though. Anyway, are you trying to suggest making Mutalisks for Minesweeper? You're just making them for defense, right? Not offense?
Yes. Yeah, purely for defense.
Okay, because I was about to wait. This guy.
Yeah,
this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Get out of the tier list now.
Creeper hosts don't have good utility here, guys. Clear packs of mines with Mutalisks, please.
With your entire Mutalisk ball, that'll go very well.
No, pack leaders for clearing. Dakron in particular, absolutely phenomenal for clearing.
Oh yeah,
but,
absolutely.
No, I mean, if you did want to use units to clear rather than pack leaders, then Guardians is the obvious one, quite frankly. No, Mutalists purely for defense.
Okay, what do you think about A tier, Joni?
I'm
I
fine
think
with.
it's a great idea because I suggested it.
I'm fine with B tier. I think not
Yeah.
quite A because again, the early game.
Yeah,
the early game is like
real
basically the most important part of the game
The
of
early
any
game is super rough.
mutator, right? So
Okay.
No, I'm very happy with that. Early game is super rough. Yeah.
All right, B tier. Moving on, Fenix. Where do we have him?
Phoenix. Oh, my bad.
I was looking Phoenix P2, and you have to be careful in the manner that you approach it, but it is very workable. He's got good tools. Warbringer and the Dragoon suit or the Arbiter suit, plus some observers, very, very effective mine clearing. And if you are basically happy to leave that little group of stuff to just go and do its thing whilst you are defending the transport with the rest of your little sort of clump of heroes, then actually you're onto a pretty good thing, I think. It's yes, there are some slightly more complicated mechanics than normal. Yes, reinforcing can be a bit of a nuisance because you're having to split your attention with even more units coming in different places. But I kind of felt in reality like Phoenix is a high damage output commander who is controlling a small clump of stuff. So I felt he had a relatively reasonable time. I had him in B tier because there are some pretty significant attention splits required, but by and large not bad.
What do you think about B tier at home?
Yeah, it's basically, he's kind of just worse Tychus, which is still pretty good because Tychus is obviously really good here. So
spoilers, man.
I had him. Yeah, well, I mean, or Tychus could be really good here. It's hard to say. The problem you run into, for me at least, is man, I hate playing as Phoenix. I don't find him very fun at all. So I don't play him enough to where I'm good enough with him. So it's one of those things that's like, I'm pretty sure if I played him more, he'd be this, in which case I thought he'd be A tier, but I am fine with B tier. Of my own experience, I'd say it's probably more like B tier, yeah.
Okay, you do rush out the Robo, right? You don't go Kaldi first, you go Robo first.
Yeah, I think you should clear the mines with a pack of Mutalisks and Caldalis, and then,
Perfect. S tier, my Donnie. Anyway, Phoenix.
Genuinely, because I think Phoenix is probably myself and ET's least favorite commander. We genuinely probably ought to have either a moderator on board to sanity check what we're suggesting with him, or just
there should be a third person in these
here.
calls. Yeah, I think we need to have someone besides me and Johnny here to moderate. I think.
My Donnie, these guys are throwing shade right at me. The audacity. Anyway, B tier seems fine for Phoenix. Let's put him B tier. Prestige wise, are you sure?
Yeah, definitely. Second.
Where do you keep your shell farm?
At home.
Home.
And
so
you pray.
if the shells are needed at the front on the 5th set, what do you do?
Recall.
Yeah, recall. It's an attention split is the reality, but by that point you're less concerned because you've actually cleared the majority of the mines that make the difference.
If you're really concerned about having the attention split, you can always not get warp gate research and just queue up your units from your control groups. Just get your control group of gateways, robos, and stargates. Queue up more legionnaires, more derps, more immortals, more colossus. Colossus are probably the key here, and just have them rally at a certain spot. And then once you're in need of champions, you just use your control group of champions, attack move where you want to go, and then when you see the green map coming out of your base, that's the champion. Recall it as the front. Okay, B tier. Prestige-wise, second one is what they recommend, and I don't see any reason to go against it. Moving on, Han and Horner. Where do we have them?
Han and Horner. Once you get out bombing platforms, you could do like Raven to spot the mines with the sonar thing or the radar thing, and then we're not underwater here. And then you can, bombing platform them, I guess. Other than that, it's like, are they contributing much? I don't think so. Not really. I think you probably go pack of Wraiths and bombing platforms here. And it's kind of not still going to be very good, I don't think. One stray Widow Mine and buy, basically. So, yeah, I think it's not good. So I had them in D tier.
D tier. What do you think, Joni?
I had them a little better, but playing exactly the same tactic. I played P2, but for exactly that reason, that I was using Wraiths, Ravens, bombing platforms. And actually, I found that in the early game in particular, Raven and a couple of Wraiths was actually pretty good. Get everything cloaked up, send it out to clear mines, as long as you know where the detection is, which you sort of ought to by this point, and utilizing your bombing platforms intelligently to deal with that, then you do in theory have a pretty good time. Where it all starts falling over is when you're playing against an enemy comp, which for the record is basically all of them, that has flying detection. Like flying detection puts like a genuinely really significant fly in the ointment of this one, to the extent that you're needing to utilize like cooldowns to actually deal with it before you're safe to move in at all. So yeah, they're a lot better on paper this week than they actually are to play. I had them in C tier as well, actually.
Okay, both of you had them in. Wait, Edwin said D tier, didn't you?
I did.
Did you? Sorry.
What do you think about?
I guess I'm fine with C tier because, as we've said, the early game is more important than the later game, and yeah, they're probably doing better than Abathur in the early game. So I think C tier is probably fine.
Wow, being lenient to Han and Horror today. Nice. C tier it is. Prestige-wise, first one. First one, right?
I was playing P2 actually.
Ooh, okay. Let's do second one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think second one's probably reasonable because, again, like your galleons and the subsequent units you get from them are really not going to be doing much anyways, so it doesn't matter.
All right. Finally, after the first 8, Karax, where do we have him?
Right. I have a confession to make about Karax, and it's that I didn't have him automatically in S tier, although I kind of feel that I might ought to. My one concern with Karax is that even if you're playing P3, doing exactly what you ought to do and using Solar Lance to clear mines with observers, etc., you are still having to make static in order to defend the transport. And that static is a little bit prone to getting lavaed. So whilst there is a tried and tested formula, and it definitely does work, particularly in the early game, you do have a slight impetus to manage Spear of Adun energy. And even though you've got the increased cooldowns of P3, sort of careful usage of your top bar isn't required. So I had him in S tier originally, then I demoted him to A tier, and now I'm doubting my own judgment, and I've sort of got him somewhere between S to A tier. So I'll leave it there, and then ET can tell me where I've gone wrong.
What do you think, Edwin?
Yeah, I think he's pretty good. You can kind of just use observers. Again, you can spread out observers to help with mitigating lava burst for your ally, and top bar can clear pretty much everything pretty well. I think it's completely reasonable to just do a probe out on the map, build like literally one Kaderan monolith to clear out like a group of Widow Mines and Spider Mines and whatnot, and then if it lava bursts later, I don't really care that much, and it's dealt with, and it's not that expensive to do that as opposed to your top bars, because if you're doing all of your top bars as well, to clear out just the spider mines and the widow mines. It's going to take a lot of extra energy for sure. I think you probably still have enough. But definitely if you're doing top bars, hit the mines, unless you're in a super rush, hit the mines once and then just wait like 5 seconds for barrier to time out instead of pummeling through it. There's no reason to do that in most situations. And then from there, it's a similar thing of like you clear the enemies that spawn next to the suppression towers with top bar, and then just throw up some cannons next to the suppression tower. If they die after it's gone or even before it's gone, just like you're going to lose one or two, build a new pylon if it gets taken out, and then just, once the suppression tower is gone, you don't care if they die. You could also even just go into like some Phoenix or something like that. Those are obviously very good for dodging that kind of stuff. Just be careful around mines to deal with the suppression towers. So I think he's quite good. I did have him in S tier. I don't think he's the strongest in S by any means, but I think he's pretty good.
Also, what happens is when you're putting cannons and monoliths on the map, even if they're not clustered together, and especially if they're not clustered together, they automatically split out the lava bursts to a large area because they appear anywhere where your forces are, and the more you spread out your cannons and monoliths, the less dense the lava cluster will be. Sure, you'll lose them, just place them. And don't cluster them together so that no two cannons go down to the same lava. That's what I would say.
Okay. Yep,
Okay.
as long as there's a one space gap, there's no way that a lava burst can hit two buildings at once. So just don't make them aesthetic, make them look ugly and it'll be good.
What do you think, Joni?
Yeah, I'm super happy with that. Yeah.
All right, moving on. Oh wait, Prestige, third one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Moving on, Kerrigan. Where do we have him?
Kerrigan basically has to do P3 this week, I would say, because you need the longer range on your abilities and whatnot to snipe the mines. You do have Omega Worms, which are good for detecting, but it's not a lot. You basically only have Kerrigan to use, like in many weeks, and there is a lot for Kerrigan to do. Like I said, just defending and clearing on this map is already a good amount of stuff to do, and then you add the fact that you have to be really careful about clearing because there could be mines around any corner and you could be getting lava bursted, and dealing with the enemies, they're going to have barrier, so it takes longer to kill them. It's just a lot of chores for Kerrigan to keep up with. In theory, you can add in like some Lings, some Mutalisks, something like that, Broodlords over the airspace, whatever, to kind of help with that. But that's just, now it's even more micro you have to keep track of, and Kerrigan will die very quickly if she's standing on a lava burst, and units do not try to really move out of the way of lava bursts. So yeah, it's a lot to do. I think she has the ability to do some good work though, especially because even before you get out your Omega Worms, which you should be able to have like one by the time Kerrigan comes out, but say you don't, Crushing Grip will still stun and reveal the Widow Mines and Spider Mines. So as long as you look for the little disruptions in the ground, then you should be able to get them anyways to kind of get the initial clearing done. So I think she's okay. I had her in B tier.
And also, the good news for Kerrigan is that she has Mutalisks to clear the mines. Hey!
Yes. Oh, and a mobilization wave, obviously, once you get to that point. But again, once you get to that point, it's like, the game's probably mostly decided already.
Yeah,
but yeah, a mobilization wave obviously clears the Widow Mines and the Spider Mines and everything. So very good as well.
Just get to 10 minutes. What do you think, Joni?
Yeah, I will put in a shout for P2 here, utilizing the Omega Worms to charge her up, and then, a slide or a jump with the charged P2 will sort of stun, knock out, etc. Sort of lots of mines within range. So it's another decent clearing tool that she's got. Yes, it nukes her immobilization wave a little bit, but the reality to it is you are going to largely use that to clear mines on this level, on this mutator anyway. So I quite liked it for its sort of the bit of a boost it gives you, particularly in the early game for that. I totally agreed with ET though that her sort of her extra hero support is weak. Again, my inclination was Broodlords purely because you could then float around and use for sort of whatever, basically, potentially having to change that against an air comp, obviously. But yeah, Omega Worms, hero unit, you are in deep trouble if your hero unit gets taken out. So yeah, beta.
So yeah, the second Prestige, you do one-shot the Spider Mines with the mobilization wave, but you don't one-shot the Widow Mines, and those do hit air. So if you're flying with Mutalisks, you can still clear those Widow Mines using your Mutalisks.
I'd say definitely, like, it's almost, I think, better to just mass Omega Worms, because again, you can just start spamming them all over the map, and then there's like no lava burst to worry about as actual Kerrigan. I'm not even sure if you want to build units here. Because if you just have like 12 Omega Worms, you guaranteed will see any mines and whatnot in front of you. And so, yeah, I'd probably go P3. But P2, I like playing P2. It's fun. So, you could do that as well.
Okay.
If you're going to do that, just keep in mind that the Widow Mines will be left with a good amount of health.
What letter?
I think both of us said B tier, did we?
B tier.
Yeah.
Okay. So Prestige, second one? We're recommending second one?
She's
second or
genuinely versatile enough that I think, second, third, whatever you fancy.
Okay. Moving on. Nova. Where do we have him?
Nova I felt very good this week. I played P3. I'm relatively confident that you could do a semi-decent job with P1. But for my money, being able to effectively simply use Nova to clear mines, not have to, genuinely not really have to worry about it, other than sort of paying 400 minerals to bring her back to life when you forget about her for a bit and she gets lava bursted. But other than that, being able to dedicate a single unit, which does happen to have detection built in, to that sole task of dealing with Minesweeper is massively helpful. Standard combination of Ravens and Liberators to defend stuff. And, you can utilize turrets to clear mines if you want to, but the reality to it is Nova's doing that already, coupled with a bit of Griffin airstrike as and when necessary, in particular against air comps. And you are basically off to the races on this one. I had her as S tier.
What do you think, Edwin Home?
Yeah, P3, just very good here. Obviously, the clearing potential's excellent. And then Liberators and Ravens, you can kind of have them sitting over the airspace when you don't need them, so you don't have to worry too much about them. You can focus on Nova, and all they have to do really is defend, which they're great at, and kill suppression towers, which they're even better at. So pretty good, excellent even. So yeah, I had him in S tier.
All right, third Prestige. Moving on. Oh wait, Raynor. Where do we have him?
Raynor is bad. He has horrible detection. He has not very good options against things like Lava Burst and even Barrier, really. And yeah, it's just an all-around painful, sucky time. I think your best bet is probably massing battle cruisers at home, and then hopefully your ally can carry you for the first 10 or 15 minutes. And then once you have maxed out on battle cruisers, then you can afford to scan with your 8 orbitals or whatever you have.
Hope your ally...
yeah.
Hope your ally can carry you for the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And if they can do that, you'll do just so great. So I had him in E tier.
E tier. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, I actually, for a long time, when I was trying to pluck up the courage to playtest Raynor on this one, was just sat in the menu screen, trying to figure out what to actually, what I'd even try and do. I ended up trying to basically send out sort of Banshee hit squads accompanied by scans to try clearing mines, and effectively using top bars to sort of do some weird combination of defending and just generally trying to stay alive. But it was an absolute nightmare. Not happy about it. I tried it about 3 times and then just basically rage quit and gave up. So it was a really torrid experience. I probably spent just as much time trying to think of reasons why I could, or justifications for putting him in F tier, because it was just that traumatic of an experience. But yeah, I couldn't figure it out at all. The only solution I came to was play P3, because everything else is going to be more pain. But yeah, E tier.
All right, unanimous E tier. Poor Raynor. Moving on, Stetboy. Where do we have him?
I mean, this is another classic case of Super Gary solo. He's simply plays completely normally, basically, with a bit of additional micro. There is just nothing to worry about here. Yeah, that is really all that is to be said. There's, play whatever unit comp you like. It doesn't really make, other than probably steer clear of Infestors or make Super Gary's amazing. S tier, sorry.
What do you think, Edwin Home?
Yeah, we're finally getting into all the good heroes right towards the end, basically, here. He's really good. You have invincible Lings. That's all there really needs said. So, yeah, S tier.
And not just that, the Stetlites, just by virtue of existing, spread out all that lava. Oh my Donnie. Moving on, Stukov, where do we have him?
Stukov is something. He doesn't have the best detection in the early game, because you do have to get all the way up to your Brood Queens, really, to get any kind of reasonable detection. You have Overseers, but you don't have anything to kind of protect them necessarily, so you have to be really careful with them. If you're going P3, eventually you might be able to do a bit, but then you reach the end of the game and you're back to not being able to do much because getting all the way across the map is a pain enough just walking there when there isn't lava flowing from the ground, killing all of your infested as they go. So you probably want to go for like a P1, some kind of Diamondback play, not too many, but a few. Throw some Overlords all over the map to spread things out, and yeah, just have like a pack of 10 to 20 Diamondbacks. And clear with that and ocular symbiote. And yeah, you should be okay-ish. Fungal from the Queens will actually do pretty well against the groups of mines and stuff as well. So always keep that in mind. And yeah, it'll be fine, I think. So I had him in B tier.
What do you think, Joni?
I arrived at very similar strategic conclusions in the sense that I felt that playing P1 was a much better solution than anything else I came up with. My preference was to clear with tanks, which is extremely slow. But I'm not good enough to clear with Diamondbacks, so fine. But yeah, clearing with sort of tanks, overseers, and queens, etc., fine. Exactly like ET said, sort of hit squad of Diamondbacks, you should be able to keep them moving more than enough to sort of keep them safe. And yeah, I think exactly as ET has highlighted, not falling into the sort of classic trap for this map of the fact that actually even the third transport node is outside of creep range by the time the transport gets there. And then the fifth set, you are having to move bunkers in order to actually get your infested to it, meaning that on this set of mutators, P3 is, well, I'm sure that people have gotten it to work, but for my money, pretty unviable in the sense your bunkers are going to get absolutely trashed as soon as you put them in the ground. So yeah, I had him in C tier. I wasn't massively convinced. I kind of had him more similar to a kind of Han and Horner than a Kerrigan. But I'm, yeah, sort of if ET wants to persuade me into B tier, then I can probably be led.
What do you think about C tier, Edwin?
I think, I don't know, the ocular symbiote's really nice. The slime trail's great, but yeah, I'm just trying to...
Here's still a trick you can do is Stukov in the early game, the really early game. Lift off your bunker and then infest structure. It'll basically set off all the spider mines. So all you have to worry about are widow mines.
It's true.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah, and you can also use that on any enemy buildings to kind of pre-clear spider mine, widow mine shots. So.
That's very true. Yeah.
I think he's probably still B for me.
I'm happy with B. Yeah, I'm happy with B.
Because of that trick, really? Anyway, B for barracks. Hey, B for broodlings.
I was already B.
Anyway, B, sure, B, Stukov. Hey, moving on. Swann, where do we have him?
So Swann is this is the unusual scenario in which I will very, very happily play P1. I think you can get a significant amount of work done on this map simply with P1 laser drill and floating factories for the merit that they obviously don't set off mines. Obviously, the splash damage on the drill exceptionally useful for getting stuff done. Totally sort of dealer's choice, really, in terms of how you want to deal with the rest of the map. I think similarly to Karax, like you do obviously have the option to put down static. The problem you've got with this is you do actually have to build it this time round, which does take a bit of time. So you are slightly vulnerable, more prone to lava burst while you're doing so, and losing all your SCVs while you're doing it is a nuisance. I had a strong inclination on this that once I had built up a decent sized hit squad of wraiths and science vessels, and you are going to need to rush into a science vessel at least right from the start to accompany your floating factory. In actual fact, a little hit squad of wraiths and science vessels to clear up mines on the rest of the map while the laser drill does the bulk of the defensive work is absolutely an option. With all that being said, he's fine, but he's not great, basically. I had him in B tier.
What do you think about B tier at Benham?
Yeah, it's kind of the early game problem all over again, getting up into science vessels and things like that. It's very, very difficult to not have Orana take like 2 packs of widow mines or spider mines directly to the face on her way to the first external terminal. So yeah, with that, it's you can still survive that, obviously. She can tank that, but it puts you in a in aura debt for a while there until she heals up, and you have to do a very good job of keeping her safe from the suppression towers and whatnot. So yeah, I had him in B tier as well.
B tier. Prestige wise, first one?
Probably first, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving on, Tychus? Where do we have him?
Tychus is, potentially the best, potentially the greatest here. He's very, very, very good. It's just so easy, even with the detection, issues, so to speak. Once you get Tychus's Shredder Grenade upgrade, I believe he pretty much immediately starts one-shotting on P2 the mines and whatnot, so you don't even need to see them necessarily with him. And then Sirius has turrets, and then you can even get out like Vega, Nux, whoever else with natural automatic detection. So it's a really, really easy time, and yeah, no real issues as long as you're on top of your micro. Keep an eye on your mercs so they don't get lava bursted, and you should be completely fine. So I had him in S tier.
What do you think, Joni?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there are going to be detractors out there that are going to say that Tychus P2 isn't very good against Minesweeper. That simply is not the case. Sirius is quite phenomenal against it, in my opinion. I tend to avoid trying to use Nux and Vega just because their fire rate is so slow. But the reality to it is, yeah, they are detectors themselves. They deal with it perfectly well. And then by the time you've actually cleared the stations, Tychus just functions as normal, massively overpoweredly, and just deals with everything. So yeah, solid S tier from my point of view. I think very, very easy to play.
All right, prestige-wise, second one. Moving on.
Yes.
Vorazun, where do we have him?
Straight back down to the other side of the tier list on this one. I managed to get to the point where I could figure out, like, theoretically and mechanically how I think one ought to play Vorazun in order to be able to, like, do this. I could not for the life of me execute it properly. She has multiple issues, chiefly that, yes, some of her clearing units are cloaked, but they are melee units. So any static defense or flying defense or anything along those lines is going to be, flying defense in particular going to be a massive, flying detection going to be a massive sort of problem there. Her detection absolutely sucks. Oracles, I think, pretty roundly recognised as the worst defense in co-op. Worst detection in co-op. I mean, even in non-mutator maps, I can't keep oracles alive to save my life. So very little hope on this. Very similar to Raynor. Basically, I was even closer, I think, to nominating Vorazun for a place in F tier because I simply could not even figure out how one was to sort of approach this. It she is terrible at this to the extent that kind of saying, oh yeah, but she's got time stop. Well, yeah, she does. For 20 seconds of a 25-minute map, she's absolutely fine. Every sort of 2.5 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever it is, but she's awful. She's just catastrophically bad. I really want to put her in F tier.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll leave it to ET.
What do you think, Edwin?
I had her in D tier. I think what you meant to say with the oracles being an offense, as in an offensive to my sensibilities kind of thing. As far as detection goes, they're offensively bad. But anyways, I had her in D tier. I do think she's quite bad. The thing is, it's like Raynor's detection is literally like, do I want to spend, 400 minerals that a mule would mine for me on one scan in one area? Obviously, his missile turrets aren't even an option, right? Whereas at least oracles, you build them, they only cost 125.50, I think, 150.50, something like that. And if you're careful with them, they shouldn't die that much. And they can at least move, and they can cloak, which is better by a good bit, I think, than scans. And you do have, for any mines that are not near detection, it's just a free clear because you have invisible men with swords. And you even have the Shadow Strike ability with your Dark Templar to kind of, at range, kill mines. So I don't think she's E tier. I think she's probably D tier.
D tier.
Hear me out on this one, because there is a counterpoint, I feel, to that, to using DTs for mine clearing, and it's the one that catastrophically broke me. And that is very simply that if there is flying detection, you can't do anything about it. It's just game over. That combination of flying detection and Minesweeper for Vorazun is a game-breaking bug. It's awful. Trying to maneuver cloaked corsairs into range to eliminate the flying detection, and then getting the DTs out of the way with lava burst on top of it, and it was honestly it broke me. So that was the chief reason for me to put her in E tier. But if there's a better solution, I'm all ears.
Have you tried switching off autocast and distraction web and using it manually on the minefields so that your auto attack can fight them without having to wait for the cooldown on Shadow Fury.
That is a very reasonable suggestion, and no, I was so angry by the point.
Don't worry,
I got
I'd be
to-
angry too.
Yeah,
That's a
I just
completely-
didn't have. I was so rage induced I couldn't actually think. So no, I didn't, and that is actually completely fair. So yeah, I mean D tier, E tier. I personally think she's significantly worse than Abathur and probably on a par with Raynor. But if ET's insistent on D tier, then I'll put her in D tier. So
What do you think, Eppenhelm?
Yeah, I just think she's better than Abathur in like the early game, right?
Oh yeah,
For like the first 5 to 10 minutes, she's
Yeah,
better
yeah,
than
that's
Abathur,
fair.
and that tends
Yeah,
to
that's
matter
fair.
more.
You can
right?
steal
I guess,
gas.
So
on the expansion by just putting a dark pylon and then just casually building the assimilator. Free gas. Anyway, so still bad, but like not F, I don't think. Because I mean, yes, it's harder than it sounds. Using distraction web, making sure that every single mine is covered, so your Dark Templar force don't get all erased in a single mine. It's very risky, but it is an option. You can do that. So that, I think, necessarily picks her up out of F at least. But you did settle on D as an agreement, so that's where she goes. Prestige, because D's considered bad. Zagara. Where do we have him?
Zagara is not actually bad. Not as bad as you would think, and actually kind of decent, because P3 Zagara, you can kind of just send the Baneling ability into packs of mines, even if there isn't detection, and you will kill those mines, generally speaking, even through barrier. It'll kind of eat barrier and then still kill them. So she's not great by any means. She's a little bit slow on the clearing and things like that, and getting your army out to help is quite difficult. I think it might even be worth going like Pack of Corruptors or something like that, purely for sniping like suppression towers. But yeah, it's not great. I had her between B and C tier. I think I'd probably go C tier though.
What do you think, Edmund or Joni?
I had her a little lower than that. I had her in D tier actually, but I do see the argument. I did use very similar tactics. I think sending a load of Banelings along in order to clear mines is really not the end of the world. And actually her hero unit in and of itself, playing P3, has such significant mobility that she is actually able to deal with a surprising amount of stuff. I was trying to shoehorn bile launchers in there somewhere. There is really very little to be done with them this week because you will build them and then they'll get bursted down. She's not easy to use by any stretch of the imagination, but she's not as bad a time as I think people may expect her to be. And yes, I actually will support ET's assertion that I do think with her that potentially building small groups of quite large units is potentially the way to go, which is a bit counterintuitive on this mutator, but I do think it's sensible. Yeah, I had her in D tier, but I'm happy. Did you say C tier, ET? Because I'm sort of happy with C tier if that's
Okay, I guess we're going C tier because at least it's not Abathur. It's something. Moving on. Zeratul. Where do we have him?
well. I mean, yes. That's precisely where I had him. Cannons are very good. What else is there to say, really? Not a huge amount.
All right. What do you think,
it-
Edmund?
I mean, one thing I will say is that
F tier.
it is, it is entirely feasible to spin and win on this mutator, and I would suggest it's actually probably not a terrible idea because then you are literally only playing with the hero unit and cannons, obviously.
Okay, letter.
Sorry, Esther.
What do you think, Edmund?
Yeah, I would probably still go P2 because then you get mega cannons and
Mega cannons.
mega ultra double cannons.
Turbo.
And you get the like
Giga.
double vision range on your observers, so you can have like 4 observers that see the entirety of the map at once to place those cannons with. And yeah, I mean, but P3 is probably completely fine as well. But I went P2, and yeah, it was easy, so S tier.
Or would you not give yourself the satisfaction of demoting mines into like marauders?
Oh, I did that as well. Yeah, with P2. Yeah, I guess you can't do that with P3.
Yeah,
so.
true, that is true.
Okay, do we have a double S?
No, I don't think so.
All right, top of S.
I would
Probably
I would-
Tychus or Stetmann.
I was going to say I would actually have Stetmann above Tychus on this one.
Any objection?
He's very good.
I don't know. It's like it's the same thing. The only downside that Tychus has, right, is if you miss a lava burst, it could kill one of your heroes very quickly. But that's true for Stetmann as well. And Stetmann only has the one hero unit, where Tychus is like, oh no, I have 4 other heroes. But you do have Zerglings, which are basically like an infinite amount of hero units. So
And again,
I
the
don't know.
stat lets resplit all lava.
Yeah, I think Stetmann's probably fine because it's much easier, I think.
Is this where we're settling? Who's third in S?
No,
Oh,
I would put Karax at the bottom of S tier, and then
Yeah, I think Nova's probably middle. I like that.
all right.
Yeah,
No A tier. My Donnie. Who's top of B tier?
We could put Karax in A tier just to have someone there. I wouldn't massively object if Johnny wants to do that.
I'm not going to object to that either. I had him there originally, so excuse me.
And then top of B, maybe Swann.
Yeah, I think possibly Swann, possibly Kerrigan is pretty near the top, I think. And then it's a bit of a mess on the bottom, actually, isn't it? I think maybe I think
Dehaka is one of the worst.
I was going to put Dehaka above Mengsk, actually. I found clearing with Mengsk in the first instance to be quite difficult, but I might actually, and ET, you will hate this as much as I will. I might suggest putting Fenix just below Kerrigan, actually.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah, I didn't hate playing him as much as normal.
These
Yeah, I think
haters.
that's fine.
My Donnie. Then
And then I'm pretty happy with that for B tier. I think that's pretty respectable.
okay, top of C tier.
Cool.
The guy with
for
the best
my money,
detection,
probably-
right?
Yeah, I think so. And then maybe Han and Horner in second.
Yeah, Han and Horn are pretty good.
And I think Zagara is probably worse than Alarak.
I was going to say, like, Alarak is quite solid, but I suppose no, that's fine. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that. And then I obviously will have Vorazun below Abatha, but ET may feel differently.
Okay.
Yeah, I
so
think that's fine how it is.
what do we have combinations of B tier and below who together will be stronger than Zeratul on his own?
I mean, anyone that can give Dehaka detection.
Raynor.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
Even
Raynor,
Raynor,
Artanis, Vorazun,
You know.
Alarak, anyone except, literally anyone, right?
Oh,
they
of
all
course.
have fine detection to give to
Hey,
Dehaka.
the usual Artanis, Zagara, a guard shell Zerglings.
Yeah.
Yeah, genuinely not bad.
Anyone who can get Kerrigan to 10 minutes.
Yes, yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, similarly, anyone that can give Swann like
Yeah, like Han and
decent,
Horner,
early
Kerrigan,
detection.
would actually be pretty
decent
solid.
detection.
Han and Horner Swann.
Like, yeah.
Han and Horner gets more air units, and Swann gets an early Raven. Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
All right, that's a lot of combinations of guys who'd be better than Zeratul on his own. How does Raynor get out of E tier?
I mean,
Some
scan
form
is
of mobile detection.
yeah,
Or stand being on a timer and not costing energy, so it doesn't interfere with your mules. But it's like a 60-second cooldown per command center or something.
not having mobile detection is just an absolute death sentence for any of the mutators that require any detection at all. It's just that basically immediately puts Raynor right at the bottom. It's really not good.
Maybe also give Marauders something like 8 range so that they can just you would be able to go bio against this type of mutation. So
Yeah.
something, because seeing the mines is one thing, clearing them is a whole other thing. What if you can redeploy bunkers? Like you can build the bunker in your base and then click to redeploy it for some minerals, so that you can just have a fully loaded bunker in the middle of a minefield that you can just clear out the mines. Hey, that might work. Or
Yeah, I mean,
Or-
he's okay.
if it's
He's got banshees that can clear. Like it's more the sort of, exactly like ET said earlier, it's the sheer financial cost of detecting that's his biggest problem in this
Oh,
case.
I got it.
think.
Give missile turrets lift off. That's
Flying
it.
missile turret. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would
Missile turret
really
lift
be the
off.
one.
That would be the one. Then you can play turret siege tank. That'd be completely viable because his tanks have fast unsiege. So anytime you get lava, you just relocate. It's
I
genius.
mean, in fairness, what would genuinely make sort of sense in terms of the lore would be if his upgraded command centers could just had detection and therefore could be floated. Like
That'd also
that
work.
would be
Yeah.
that would be viable. But just the fact that he can't detect on the move is daft.
That would only be somewhat viable. There is still lava burst on the floating command centers. You just
fly
lose
them over the
incorrect.
unpathable
550
terrain.
minerals.
That's what the dead ground's for.
Unpathable terrain, yeah.
Those are some fat command centers for unpathable terrain.
Hey,
but,
no, we don't
maybe-
body
maybe-
shame here. Come on, man.
Yeah, sorry, slim, thick command centers for the unpathable terrain.
Plus-sized command centers. My
Right,
God.
they can drop their own mules to repair themselves. Perfect.
And to be flying
Yeah.
mules too. All right, so I guess that's enough possible buffs to Raynor. All right, hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. If you have an idea for what else I can do, please leave that in the comment. I will see you guys next time.